Imagine the silence of a house that was once filled with their noise, their endless demands, and that suffocating, constant pressure. You think you are the one left broken, grieving the phantom of who you thought you loved. But what if the deepest, most agonizing silence isn't yours? What if it is theirs? Let's explore what happens when the supply finally runs dry. You have been told they move on instantly, haven't you? That they are already laughing, drinking, and parading someone new across your social media feed. It is a performance designed to make you feel discarded. But behind the mask, there is a haunting reality that they are terrified to admit, even to themselves. It is the sound of absolute emptiness. We often mistake their chaos for strength, their volatility for power, and their cruelty for control. We look at them and see a predator who has won the game. But look closer. Beneath that armor of arrogance lies a fractured child who never developed a sense of self. They did not grow up. They just learned how to perfectly mimic the people around them. When you were with them, you were the mirror. You reflected back their ideal self, the grand, brilliant, charming character they needed to believe they were. You provided the emotional validation that allowed them to feel human for a fleeting moment. You were their fuel, their oxygen, and their entire psychological architecture, all wrapped in one person. And then the day came. Maybe you walked away, or perhaps you just stopped reacting. You turned off the faucet. You refused to be the mirror anymore. You stopped apologizing for their sins and stopped trying to heal their wounds. In that quiet moment of your exit, you did not just walk out the door. You took their entire constructed reality with you. Think about that for a second. They rely on others to define their worth, their mood, and their identity. Without your constant attention, your emotional fluctuations, and your desperate attempts to understand them, they are left with nothing but their own company. And that, for them, is a terrifying place to be. It is the void, screaming for some attention. It isn't just that they miss you. They don't miss people, they miss the function you performed. You were the structure that kept their dark, internal world from collapsing. When you leave, that structure disappears, and they are suddenly forced to confront a reality that has been rotting behind their eyes for years. They cannot stand the view. They cannot sit with themselves. They have no internal world, no reservoir of self-love, and no capacity for introspection. While you spent your time recovering and finding your own center, they are in a frantic race against the clock, trying to find someone else to fill the space you left behind. It is a desperate, endless, and draining cycle. This is the part that nobody talks about, the silent hell they endure when they are alone in the dark. They are haunted by their own reflection. They aren't moving on, they are running away from the one person they fear most, themselves. They are perpetually chasing a distraction so they never have to be truly alone with their own broken mind. So, before we look at the mechanics of their collapse, ask yourself, why does it matter that they are miserable? It matters because it reveals the lie. It proves that you were never the problem. You were the solution they did not deserve. Today, we peel back the mask to see the void they are so desperate to ignore. Let's look at what is really there. To understand their misery, you have to stop viewing them as an adult. Think of them as a bottomless pit that is constantly hungry. They are incapable of generating their own self-esteem, which means they are dependent on external validation. They require a steady stream of attention, praise, or even negative drama to feel alive. When you provide that attention, you are feeding a monster that can never be satiated. No matter how much love you give, it is never enough because it is not being absorbed. It is leaking right through them. They have a psychological sieve where a soul should be. That is why they are perpetually searching for the next fix, the next person. This is not about love. It is about regulation. They use other people as emotional prosthetics. When they are with you, they feel regulated, confident, and powerful. But the moment you are gone, they feel the drop. They feel the impending doom of their own insignificance. It is a panic that most people will never have to experience in their lives. They live in a state of chronic detachment. They are constantly observing themselves, wondering if they are acting the right way, saying the right words, or appearing as they should. They aren't living, they are performing. And a performance requires an audience. Without you there to watch, the play loses its meaning entirely. You might think they are out there living their best life, but they are actually struggling to maintain the narrative. They need the world to see them as the winner. They need the validation of a new supply to prove to themselves that they are still lovable, still powerful, and still in control. It is a fragile house of cards. Their internal chaos is a result of their inability to process shame. Every time they are alone, that shame creeps in. It whispers that they are not good enough, that they are a fraud, and that they are empty. So they use people to drown out that voice. You are the noise they use to silence their own internal demons. But they have no noise. This is why they love bomb the next victim so intensely. It isn't because they found someone better, it is because they are desperate. They are starving for the emotional nutrients you used to provide. They move quickly because they cannot handle the silence of their own mind for more than a few days, or sometimes even a few hours. It is a sad existence, really. They are condemned to repeat the same patterns forever, never learning, never growing, and never actually connecting with anyone. They are like a ghost haunting the lives of those they meet. They show up, they drink the energy they need, and when they are empty, they move to the next host. They are doomed. And here is the irony, they hate the people they use. They despise the supply because the supply represents their dependence. They resent you for having the power to make them feel something. That is why they are often cruel. They are punishing you for reminding them that they cannot survive on their own. It is a twisted form of projection. When you finally cut the cord, you aren't just breaking a relationship. You are severing their lifeline to a reality where they felt whole. You are the one who woke up from the dream, but they are the ones who are still trapped in the nightmare of their own making. You have the truth, they only have the performance. And the play is failing. The moment you decide you are done is the moment their world begins to tilt on its axis. You stop checking in. You stop responding. You stop trying to explain your pain. You simply exist in your own sphere, separate from them. For the first time, they are staring at a locked door, and they have no key to get back inside your reality. At first, they don't believe it. They think it is just another game. They reach out with a breadcrumb, a small attempt to test the waters. They wait for your reaction. But when they see nothing, no anger, no tears, no desperate plea, the panic starts to set in. The silence you are giving them is the loudest, most terrifying sound they know. This is the turning point. The realization that they have lost control. They start to spiral. They cycle through their old tricks. The blame, the pity, the sudden displays of affection, the manufactured emergencies. But nothing sticks. The power dynamic has shifted entirely. You are no longer their audience. You are the architect of your own peace. Watching them react is like watching a wild animal trapped in a corner. They lash out. They try to smear your name. They try to recruit others to their side. They are doing everything they can to regain the status quo, because the alternative, facing their own inadequacy, is simply too painful for them to even contemplate for a moment. But you stay steady. And in that stillness, their behavior becomes increasingly erratic. They lose their composure. They become sloppy. They start making mistakes that expose who they really are to the world. They were always a paper tiger, but now the wind is blowing, and you can see the paper tearing. They are losing their grip on their own mask. It is a slow-motion collapse. You might think they are winning because they have found someone new, but look at the quality of that new interaction. It is frantic. It is shallow. It is a frantic attempt to cover the wound you left behind. They are just repeating the same script with a different actor. It is boring and it is entirely predictable. You have effectively demoted them. They are no longer the director of your life. They are just a side character you have cut from the script. This infuriates them more than anything. They cannot stand the idea that you are doing fine without them. They need you to be miserable to confirm that they were the essential element of your happiness. As the weeks turn into months, the void grows. They have to work harder and harder to get the same hit of validation. They become more demanding, more aggressive, and more desperate. The mask slips further every day. The people around them start to notice that something is off. They are no longer the charming person they pretended to be. You are living your life. You are rediscovering what it feels like to be yourself, to breathe without permission, to think without filtering. They are stuck in a loop of misery, constantly trying to escape the emptiness. You are moving forward, while they are running in circles, trying to find the exit to a maze they built themselves. This is the power of the no-contact rule. It is not just about silence, it is about taking your life back. It forces them to confront the reality that they are nothing without you. They have to live in the void. And for someone who has spent their whole life running from themselves, there is no greater punishment than that. The silence is finally theirs. Now, let's be brutally honest about what happens in the aftermath. They aren't sitting around missing you because they loved you. They are missing you because you were the easiest way to keep their demons at bay. They are grieving their own convenience. Their suffering is just a manifestation of their own inability to self-soothe. The consequences of their behavior start to compound. They leave a trail of broken relationships, exhausted friends, and bewildered ex-partners in their wake. They can never stay in one place for too long because eventually the mask slips, and the real person underneath, the one who is terrified and empty, becomes too obvious to ignore. They start to isolate themselves. People stop answering their calls. They have used up all their goodwill. They find themselves in a smaller and smaller circle, surrounded only by people who don't know the truth yet, or people who are just as broken as they are. It is a lonely, cold, and hollow existence. They are surrounded by people, yet totally alone. They try to recreate the past, but it never works. They go back to old exes, old friends, old haunts. But the magic is gone. They have aged, their tactics are stale, and people are starting to talk. The narrative they have carefully crafted is falling apart. They are becoming the punchline of a joke they don't even understand is being told about them. The depression hits, but they cannot call it that. They call it boredom, or stress, or bad luck. They cannot admit they are depressed because that would require introspection. So they medicate, they distract, and they run. They live in a permanent state of agitation, waiting for the next hit of supply to keep the darkness at bay for another day. Have you noticed how they look in their photos? Maybe they look the same, but there is a hollowness behind the eyes. It is the look of someone who has no center. They are like a shell that has been hollowed out. They are just a costume with nobody inside. It is tragic, but it is their own choice. They refuse to do the hard work of becoming real. They are aging, and that is their greatest fear. They define themselves by their appearance, their charm, and their ability to attract others. As the years pass, that currency loses value. They become more desperate, more aggressive, and more transparent. The world moves on, and they are left behind, clutching at the ghosts of who they used to be. They aren't the villains of a grand story, they are pathetic figures in a small, sad tragedy. They are trapped in a prison of their own making, where the walls are made of mirrors that never quite show them what they want to see. They are eternally hungry, eternally thirsty, and eternally empty. And they will never, ever get enough. You might feel sorry for them at times, and that is just your empathy talking. That is the very thing they exploited. But don't mistake their misery for tragedy. Their misery is the consequence of their cruelty. It is the natural end of a life lived without truth, without integrity, and without a soul. They are reaping what they have sown. They will never escape the void because they are the void. They are the empty space where a person should be. They don't have a destiny, they have a fate. And that fate is to continue this cycle until there is nobody left to fool, until there is nobody left to feed them. They will eventually face the absolute nothingness they have feared all along. Now breathe. The story isn't about them anymore. It is about you. You survived the void. You walked through the fire, and you came out the other side. You aren't just a survivor, you are someone who has learned to be real. You have something they will never have. A capacity for genuine connection, for self-reflection, and for love. The pain you felt was real, but it was also the catalyst for your growth. Because you were with them, you were forced to look at your own patterns, your own wounds, and your own capacity to heal. They were the mirror that showed you what you needed to fix in yourself. You have transformed the trauma into a foundation for a stronger, better life. They are still trapped in the same room they were in when you met them, but you have moved out. You have built a new life, brick by brick, and it is a life of your own design. You don't need their validation, their drama, or their presence to know who you are. You have defined yourself, and that is a power they will never understand. Think about the peace you have now. The quiet, the lack of anxiety, the way you can trust your own judgment. These things are priceless. You have achieved what they cannot, a sense of internal security. You are the architect of your own happiness, and you have built it on the solid rock of truth. You are no longer their prisoner. Don't worry about whether they have changed. Don't worry about whether they are happy. They are not capable of change, and they are not capable of happiness. They are stuck in a loop. You are on a journey. They are static, fixed, and decaying. You are dynamic, growing, and thriving. There is no comparison to be made between you. You are free. That is the truth that breaks the spell. You are no longer holding their leash, and they are no longer holding yours. You are walking in your own light, and they are receding into the shadows of their own choices. The void they feared is not yours. It is their permanent residence. You have left that house behind forever. When you look back, see it with clarity, not with longing. See them for exactly who they were. A broken person who couldn't love themselves and therefore could never love you. You were a light in their darkness, but they chose to remain in the shadows. That is not your failure, it is their tragedy. Let them have their darkness. You have a life to live. A life filled with real connections, real emotions, and real growth. You have the ability to feel, to learn, and to change. These are the gifts you reclaimed when you walked away. Use them. Go out and build something that is true, something that is beautiful, and something that is yours. You have earned this freedom. Never go back to that dark room. Never lower your standards to meet their level. Keep your eyes on the horizon, not on the rearview mirror. You are the protagonist of your own story now, and the ending is entirely in your hands. You have the strength, you have the wisdom, and you have the light. Keep shining. They will spend their entire lives running from the silence, desperately searching for a mirror to tell them they exist, while you are out there finally, truly existing. Remember this when you feel the doubt creep in. You were never the one who was empty. You were the only one who was ever really alive. Stop feeding the void and start living your own life.